Trig review. Here we go. Answers are on Canvas if you want to check the answers and ignore the video. Situations. Right angle, use SOHCAHTOA. Not a right angle, use sines or cosines. So I look at the first problem, right angle. I need to find the unknown sides and angles. So I know the opposite, and this is the hypotenuse and this is the adjacent. So if I want to find the hypotenuse, I would say the sine of 38 equals 7 over h, or PR, whatever you want to call it. If I want to find the adjacent side, cosine 38 equals adjacent, sorry, that's not going to help us any, tangent of 38 equals 7 over the adjacent side. Both of these are where we have to do the little trick to switch. If your variable's in your denominator, you can rewrite it. H equals 7 divided by sine of 38, and A equals 7 divided by tangent of 38. Or you can just find one side and use Pythagorean theorem. Also a good way to check. I'm not going to solve that for you. Make sure your calculator mode is in degrees. Extension ladder against the wall. The picture's already drawn for you. So we basically have two little right triangles here. When they have a picture for you, it makes it a lot easier. So they extend the ladder a little further. It reaches further up the wall. It says find the length of the ladder. So what we need to do is figure out what we know and where things can go here. So right now I have a right triangle that this distance away from the wall and some angle, and then I have another right triangle. D is still the same. Now the height is 5. There's a new angle, whatever you want to call it. What have I not used yet? It says the ladder is extended a further 0.8. So to move this ladder up, I had to stretch this distance out 0.8. So on this original one, the original triangle, if you call that x, the stretch distance is x plus 0.8. This is a good problem, a little tricky. Okay, so now just see if you can write some. We need to find the length of the extension ladder, of the extended ladder. So we need to find this distance. We need to find what x plus 0.8 is. And the increase in the angle, so we need to find that little angle. So we have another triangle up here. That this is 1, and we said that this is x plus 0.8, and this distance is x because it's the bottom of the original triangle. So there's three different things you can relate there. How are you going to relate them? Well, you can write some equations and see what's the same. So right here I could write an equation. The tangent of theta equals 4 over d. The tangent of phi equals 5 over d. That doesn't really help us. We have three variables so far. So let's look at the sine of theta. That equals 4 over x. The sine of phi equals 5 over x plus 0.8. Over here, and I could do cosine as well, but right now I don't have any angles, so I'm kind of stuck with what I need to do. So I'm going to look at this picture, and for this one, I have 3 sides. And so if you call your triangle ABC, this is little a, little b, little c. And I want to know if I can find this angle. So I don't know any angles. I do know sides. They're all related a little bit. There's some x's and some variables. So I have to get a little more information to figure out how to set those up. I have some equations. I'm gonna mess around with it a little bit. So since I don't have any angles, what else do I know? I know Pythagorean theorem. So d squared equals, x squared equals d squared plus 16. A squared plus b squared equals c squared. Same thing here, x plus 0.8 squared equals d squared plus 25. So the only thing that's the same there is d. So I know that in the top equation, x squared minus 16 equals d squared. So if I know that, I can substitute in here. So x plus 0.8 squared equals x squared minus 16 plus 25. So this is x squared plus 9. And this is x plus 0.8 times x plus 0.8. It's a good algebra question. So I have x squared plus 0.8x plus 0.8x, which is plus 1.6x, plus 0.8 times 0.8 is 0.64. So if I get everything on one side of the equation, if I start to do that, I realize I can take x squared out of both of these. So I get 1.6x equals, I'm going to bring this over here, 8.36. So I can solve that 8.36 divided by 1.6. You get 5.225. So x on my picture equals 5.225. And my x is this right here. That means the extended ladder is 5.225 plus 0.8, which is 6.0225. Now I have a much better triangle right here. I'm gonna cover that up so you can see it with something else. So that triangle right here, my x was 5.225, that's this side. This is 1, and this is 6.0225. I need to find theta, or A, or whatever you want to call it. If you call this ABC. Well, if I don't know a side and the angle across from it, it's not a right triangle. That means I'm using law of cosines. So the cosine of A equals b squared plus c squared minus 2 bc scratch that. I'm going to go ahead and write it the long way. A squared plus B squared. C squared equals A squared plus B squared minus 2AB cosine C. I always start with this. Cosine C. So if I want to change all this to be A, I make this A squared, B squared plus C squared minus 2BC cosine A. Just change my letters around. I'm going to solve that for cosine A, and it's going to give me that angle. So A squared minus B squared minus C squared divide by the negative 2BC and you can also use the formula. I didn't have my formula sheet to have it solved in my head. So if I just plug in my numbers here for those sides, I should be good. So remember, this is B, this is C, this is A. So I have, because it's opposite the side, I have 1 squared minus 5.225 squared minus 6.0225 squared all over negative 2 times 5.225 times 6.0225. Find that fraction. Make sure you put the whole numerator in parentheses and the whole denominator in parentheses. Second cosine, you get your answer. So to save time, I put it in my calculator. Notice I have my fraction up here. I put this whole thing in parentheses. This is the decimal you get. Second cosine of your answer, about 6.17 degrees. That's the end for this first video.